today's tough question, your major takeaway from the first media day that Tennessee held on Tuesday. And it's brought to you by Andy Mason of AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Andy Mason at AndyMasonRealEstate.com, 40 years of experience in that office. And with Andy Mason, I will tell you one thing right now, that he has the best service and the best prices in the biz. No need to go anywhere else. Your number one takeaway from Media Day, what stood out to you, Caleb Calhoun?
You know what actually stood out to me, and I'm going to be a little biased because I covered this side more than the other side, but was the level of confidence that I saw in the defense. And I see a lot of confidence in this team as a whole. A lot of times they don't like negative narratives. We saw that from the start 2 years ago. Josh Heupel never likes the narrative that he did anything wrong in Oklahoma, and he will tell you straight up he won't tell you he doesn't think he should have gotten fired. He won't acknowledge he did anything wrong in 2014, though. Joe Milton yesterday would not acknowledge that he had a backseat to Hendon Hooker, and I thought that really showed on the defensive side. They didn't really acknowledge that they were a problem last year. They think their cornerbacks are fine. They think it was injuries last year, and that kind of stood out to me, that level of confidence that they had.
There was an awful lot of confidence on defense, but there was confidence on defense in the middle of the season last year when I'm paraphrasing the quote, and I can't remember the player, but it was essentially people talk about us having the number one offense. Well, we believe that we have a number one type of defense. Well, that was a big reach, obviously, because they did not. And Jimmy Himes wrote about it on offthehooksports.com. But I'll tell you what stood out to me was this, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. This is Tennessee offensive coordinator Joey Halzle, and I know that some of you think I'm Joe Milton haters, and I'm not. I think everything goes best if he's the starter throughout the season. But Joey Halzle had this to say when he was asked about his freshman quarterback. You know him well, Nico. Iamaleava, and he was asked, would he be ready to go for whatever reason in September if he needed to? Here is Joey Halzle.
If y'all were to need Nico early in the season for whatever reason, what would your level of confidence be in leaning on him?
Huge confidence in him. That guy is mature beyond his years. He didn't come in like a true freshman. He came in, wanting to learn, not thinking that, highly rated recruit, I got it figured out. Like, he came in understanding, I want to learn, I need to know. And then the way that guy just has his calmness on the field, his just demeanor, I think the guys believe in him as well, that if he's called upon to do a job, that dude will step in and compete at a high level and perform at a high level. So we have a ton of confidence in that guy.
That doesn't sound like to me that there's absolutely no quarterback competition. That doesn't sound like to me that they're 100% sure that Joe Milton will be the starter throughout. Let's remember that it was composure that cost Tennessee a possibility to win that Ole Miss game in which Joe Milton jumped out of bounds. And that may be completely remedied by this point, but it may not. And here you have Joey Halzle talking about the composure that Nico Iamaleava has. And I'll tell you, I'm not predicting anything, but here's how I would put it. And Travis, I know you're already on me, but here's how I would put it. I thought there was a 10% chance that Nico could somehow wrestle away the job from Joe Milton during the season, barring injury. Where would you have been yesterday, Caleb, before media day? Would you have been even a 10% chance or less than that?
I actually would have been higher, but I would have been 15 to 20, only because, not because of what Nico, but I just thought we still weren't sure of Joe Milton. And I thought he could play his way out of the starting job because the issues that we thought were there before, there's no reason to believe they're still not there.
I was at a 10% yesterday. I'm at a 30%. You can say it's coach speak if you want, but Joey Halzle has barely been in front of the microphone. He hasn't mastered coach speak. I think that was very genuine. I've got a pretty good coach sneak sniffer over the years. That wasn't coach speak. He meant it. he was absolutely complimenting Nico, and in the process, I think opened up the door for Nico to make some sort of serious push. Again, for those that want to be Joe guys or Nico guys, that's not where you need to be. You need to be Tennessee guys. So if it's best at some point for Nico to step in there, then that may be best for the team. Now, that being said, I thought during interviews that yesterday Nico was asked, "Would you be ready to step in?" And he said, "Yes, if something happened with Joe." I mean, he got hurt, so I get the feeling that he views it as a competition, which is good, right, Caleb? You want him to view it as a competition. You don't want him going into camp going, "I'm going to lose this thing," right? And I also thought that maybe there was a little bit of a bristle by Joe Milton at one point as we're bringing Caleb back in. I thought there was a little bit of a bristle by Joe Milton when he was repeatedly asked about Nico and his ability to come in. So we all say they're brothers, they're good buddies, they're best friends, and all that's great. But the simple fact is, Nico comes in here wanting to win the job. Nico is not coming in ready to be a backup, Caleb. Nico clearly wants to win the job. And based off what Joey Halsley said, he has the skill set to do so. Robert calls it welcome to Wacky Wednesday. Perhaps it is. But that's what I came away with, Caleb, is that there is an opportunity for Nico to win this job. And I'm talking outright. I'm not talking about Joe Milton making a mistake. I think Joe Milton starts the season. I think Joe Milton starts every single game this year, barring injury. But I have more doubt about that than I had before the Vols visited with the media in their media day. You?
Yes, I also think that what you said right before I got cut off, I don't know what happened. I apologize there, but that Nico, I'm with you. I think he wants to win the job, and I think you want your quarterback to want to win the job. I mean, even if he is the freshman, that's the mentality. You don't want the quarterback to say, "Oh, I'm here to hold a clipboard for a year." You want the quarterback to always be ready to go. I mean, I harken back to 1980. This season could be like a 1989 campaign. Remember, Sterling Hinton played the first 5 games, and Dave, you were watching the year. I wasn't. I was 1 year old, so I wasn't. But my guess is Sterling Hinton didn't do anything to lose the job, right? They just felt they had a better chance with Andy Kelly the rest of the year.
Yeah, and they did in retrospect. I mean, nothing against Sterl, who I love, but Andy Kelly was a perfect fit for that team that had a ton of talent. He was a ball distributor that didn't make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, they were loaded at receiver, and they had 2 great running backs. They didn't need a running quarterback, really, to try to make plays himself. I agree. And it was a better fit. They won the SEC doing so. They finished 11-1, and they finished in the top 5 that year. So could you see something like that? Could you see Joe Milton start the year, do nothing to lose the job, but then the coach is just halfway through saying, we got a better chance with Nico long-term. Let's throw him in there.
Yes. I think that would take probably a loss at Florida, but I could see that being a possibility.
Heck, they were undefeated when they benched Sterling Hinton. They were undefeated and just lost Reggie Cobb. And then they start Andy Kelly against Alabama.
Yeah, that was pretty gutsy. I don't think they would rock the boat like that. And Joe Milton is a popular player on this team. No question about it. But they're not going to make a decision. Every one of these players that loves Joe Milton would love winning a championship more. Let's go ahead and tell you that. So if you think for 1 second that because Joe Milton stayed around and he's a good dude, that they're going to stick with him because he's a good dude, that's not why they're going to stick with him, Caleb. Not at all. They're going to stick with him because he's the better football player. And if he's not the better football player, then he's going to find the bench.
Yeah. I mean, that's Joe Milton. You're right. The players are going to prefer winning. And I think the players are going to understand if Joe Milton loses the job, that it will be because Nico's better. I will say this is where it's different from 2 years ago, which we were talking about a couple of days ago. I felt from the start Joe Milton won that job because he was Heupel's guy. And I think that kind of split the locker room to a certain degree. I don't think that would be the case now because both of them are Heupel's guys. Both Milton and Iamaleava are Heupel's guys. So I don't think it would have the same reaction. I mean, you see this. Dave, how often do you see this in the NFL? How often do you see coaches stick with quarterbacks against the wishes of the rest of the team because they're like, hey, man, he was my guy. I wanted him drafted. So I'm going to go down with this ship, and I don't care what the fans think. What, And that's what it kind of felt that Heupel did with Milton, but it's not going to be the same with Milton and Iamaleava.
And have I seen anything out of Nico in spring or the Polynesian Bowl to say that he's the guy and he's going to be ready as a freshman? Yeah, I've seen enough ability. I haven't seen him in a scrimmage situation extensively. I haven't seen him in a college football game. So there's a lot more to see. And clearly, this is hypothetical. Just the tenor of the conversation by Nico, Joe, and Joey Halsley made me think that that's at least a possibility. At least a possibility. And I do know there was a lot of pressure, or Tennessee's coaching staff felt pressure to take Joe Milton to SEC media days, whereas they might have taken someone else. Not Nico, but they might have taken someone else that's played more. I do know that for a fact. So they're aware of how they're being viewed and how they handle this situation. And it ain't easy because somebody brought up the $8 million that Nico's getting. So you have to not only make your football team happy by winning games, make your boosters happy by winning games, but at some point you're going to have to make whoever's shelling out $8 million for Nico, you're going to have to make them happy as well, Caleb. And I've been friends with high school coaches, and I've known a lot of college coaches. There are a lot of times when a starting position is a close call. Caleb, we look at it in retrospect all the time, and we say, oh, they definitely should have started this guy. Look at him. He went on to be a superstar, and the other guy was just trash. But a lot of times going into it, it's 60-40. It's pretty close. And if it's 55-45, and it's a close call in the middle of the year between Joe Milton and Nico, why wouldn't you think about the future, especially if you got a loss to Florida in the background? Which I don't think they're going to lose that game, but these are all real possibilities. This could certainly happen.